You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is our Pride Month review for summer of '85. And joining me to discuss this film, I have a special guest, Mr. Dan from the Upside Down. Hi, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this movie.
And I actually remember back in 2020 when this film came out. It's one of those, sometimes indies, as much as I try to see everything that comes out, I do my best to see all the movies and definitely try to hone in and check out the queer films. This is one of those indies that just fell through the cracks for me in 2020 and had never watched it until your recommendation. And I thought, let's talk about it for Pride Month. Was this your first viewing this year?
No, so I had actually watched it before, I think a couple years ago, I want to say. And then
Okay.
I just watched it the other night for in preparation for this. But yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about it. And I know all about the slipping through the cracks. I've been finding a lot of different stuff in queer cinema this year, especially.
So this one I watched on Prime Video. So if you have Amazon Prime, it is included with your subscription there. I also saw when I was looking it up, it's also on Tubi, which is where all of the queer cinema apparently is. Everything we've talked about during Pride Month during the series has been on Tubi. So if you're looking for queer cinema, apparently Tubi is the subscription service to go to. So this is a film from 2020 from director Francois Ozon, which basically follows two boys in Normandy in the 1980s who have a budding friendship that leads to more. And all surrounds this mystery in which our story is framed with. Now, this is a French film, and while you're watching it, it definitely has the hallmarks of French cinema. Dan, what are your just overall thoughts on Summer of '85?
I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I didn't love it, but my favorite parts were like the summer romance, but like starting out as friends and then, becoming more than that. That was like my favorite part was the summer romance. And I think both actors did a great job. We'll talk about it more, but it lost me a little bit sometimes in the third act. I wasn't happy with some of the stuff, but overall, I'd say I liked it.
Yeah, heading into this film, just based on kind of what I did know and the poster, that's why I'm wearing this shirt because I was anticipating a very call me by your name type of experience. A summer in a European country, romance, lushness, gayness, the whole deal. And so when the film opens, talking about a corpse, I was a little bit shook. I was like, wait a minute, this is not the film I was anticipating.
It was a weird phenomenon because I watched it a few years ago, and then when I rewatched it this time, I like swore I remembered not knowing that they were talking about a corpse, even though they begin with it, and it was so weird. I was like, they literally make this obvious. I don't know how. I was just maybe thinking of another movie. I don't know.
I completely agree with you. I was fully enamored for, I'd say, the first two-thirds of the film. I think the romance just works so organically. These two actors have really great chemistry, and I think both of them give really good performances as well. I don't know how you wouldn't fall in love with David. I think it's impossible not to fall in love with David. You're like, I got it, Alexis. I understand exactly what you're feeling, how you're feeling throughout this film.
Yes.
And it definitely leads you to kind of wonder. You're constantly in the back of your mind wondering what in the world leads us to the big reveal at the beginning of the movie. Like they open up with it. And so throughout the movie, I found myself constantly thinking about that, which I have to say, I almost wish they didn't start with that so that I could have fully enveloped myself in this like fun summer romance. Because since they tell us off the bat where we're going to end up, it always is there in the back of my mind. Like, trying to like, okay, where do we go from here that gets us there? Did you have a similar experience or were you able to push that out of the way and just fully lose yourself.
No, I definitely had a similar experience, especially this viewing. Especially because they label him like right when we see David for the first time, he says, "Oh, that's the corpse," but still, or something like that. Like maybe if they didn't label him, we could wonder, oh, maybe it's another person that
Yeah.
dies or something like that.
Give us a misdirect.
Yes. Honestly, though, I think it's based off a book, right? Loosely adapted from Dance on My Grave. I honestly would have been just fine with the romance and not have that. I don't know what they would have done. Maybe they thought they had to intrigue us. But I mean, I don't know. Like, Call Me by Your Name is pretty much just the summer romance, and that's good.
Had me like gripped from start to finish. I mean, I know some
Yes.
people might find it a little bit slow, but it's also longer than this movie. So, you could just cut it down and there you go. But I fully agree. I think just this summer romance, and the good thing, particularly Call Me by Your Name, kind of shows you is that a summer romance has this impending conflict built in of a ticking time. Like, the summer is coming to a close. So it kind of sets up for an inevitable moment. But this one, they frame it under the guise of somebody is going to die.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, all right, cool. But thankfully, again, I thought all of our actors really sold it in this film. I agree with you. I wish in a lot of ways we would have kept it just as this summer romance because it also takes a turn of making David this manic pixie dream boy. And they give you a monologue about it actually at one point in this film. There's a full monologue about is he just this manic pixie dream boy that we have put our own wants onto? Which I thought
Yes.
was an interesting choice.
It was, and yeah, I didn't love that choice either. I do want to say about David though, and I said this in my Letterboxd review. I didn't think about it the first time, but he reminded me of Alberto from Luca. Alexis didn't really remind me of Luca, but I don't know. He really reminded me of Alberto, like someone to look up to and have like a really, I don't know, like he's more daring than Luca, but Alexis.
Little Luca, the love child of Call Me by Your Name and Summer of '85. I also really enjoyed the girl here, the friend who kind of comes along. I think they also could have explored something interesting with her and her dynamic with these two boys. But that's one of my overall negatives, maybe a little bit of a nitpick, because I do think we stay surface level character wise in a lot of ways. And part of that, I think, is because we have this mystery aspect to the film. So, in order to service that, we kind of take away from getting to know some of these characters in a deeper level. I don't know if you felt the same way about the characters or her character particularly, but
Yes, her character, I would say definitely. And that could have also been like if we take the mystery out of it, that could have been the conflict. Like maybe David's bi. Maybe he likes her and maybe she likes Alexi better. Sometimes it's just me being greedy and I just want the gay, but it's like I usually don't like the girl that's like coming in between the guys. But here, no, you're right. I really liked her. I really enjoyed her as an actress and a character. I think she was an important character to have in there.
I agree with you and what you said early. The third act really is like okay, I like some things and I don't like other things. One aspect of the third act I didn't love is the turn that David's mom has. So she's
Yeah.
kind of an unstable character, which you can tell for the entire film. You always feel like something's never quite right with her, obviously. But she becomes so unreasonable and just I don't know, really a hateful person in that third act that it felt kind of jarring to me compared to what she was like in the first two. And you're dealing with a literal teenager as a grown adult woman and talking this way. I was just like, ma'am, this is outrage. Like you're being completely outrageous and ridiculous. I don't understand. But yeah, the mom's turn wasn't my favorite.
Yes, I completely agree. One of the many things that was so jarring about the third act was that mom character, especially she was like really close, like right off the bat with Alex. But yeah, she definitely said some unhinged things. Like after a night out, she's like, "You promised me." Like I don't know, she was a little too much at times. I would love her as a character, like a supportive mom that like find out they were together and then is really supportive of that. And I think she would be. But yeah, no, it was really jarring. And honestly, him getting bored with Alex was a big turn off for me. I did not like that part. I thought that was a little jarring. That was really jarring. I thought that was really abrupt. I could understand maybe if they wanted to, you know, play that out more, then maybe I could see like he's just like that. He gets bored with stuff. And yeah, he stops like showing interest. I didn't want him to stop showing interest though. And another thing, there was just not enough of him in the third act, obviously. So it's like I wanted him to be back on screen with Alex, and he just wasn't. I think if they were going to go the mystery route, they could have done like since we already know he's the corpse, shown some of their relationship after we see his death. Then there's more scenes of their relationship, so at least he's in the third act.
It takes an interesting turn to where, I mean, you kind of figure it out because of this pact they make and the title of that book, which I did not know before this. But you're kind of switched because there for a moment I was thinking like, did this unhinged mother like press charges against him and try to like accuse him of murder? What do we do? Like, what is the trial? How is there even like a trial right now? Because it was very clearly an accident. Like, I don't understand. But then you're like, oh, duh, he's gonna get caught dancing. But I guess that's where the mystery turns. But yeah, I agree, especially because those first two acts do such a good job of the best part of this film for me is basically the romantic atmosphere of it all. It really nails some of these moments, particularly with the music. Oh, like this scene in this club where they're just
Yes.
dancing is so good. And they actually do a really good callback to it in kind of the big climax of the movie in the
Yeah.
third act with the dancing. I thought was actually a really great reminiscent moment for that. They utilize the Normandy setting really, really well. The cinematography is gorgeous. I think the film does so many good things. It just falls a little bit short of being like amazing for me.
Yeah, I love Sailing by Rod Sterling is the one he's listening to in the club, and the montage is so it's so good, and it's perfect because they met sailing basically. That was such a good scene, and then yeah, the callback at the end was so good. It's weird because dancing on the grave is weird. Like they thought, like he thought when they took the oath, but it's such a beautiful scene still, even though yeah, it was really well done. I loved the music too.
Yeah, I think the music played such a integral role, obviously, and clearly ties directly into so much of their little summer relationship and what happens between them throughout. Are there any other big moments that stuck out or you wanted to talk about when it comes to Summer of '85?
The guy that they pick up, yeah, the drunk guy that they pick up and he takes to the beach, and then he shows up at the end, and I loved that because they went on the boat ride, and it shows hope for Alex. A future they're using David's boat. I really liked that. I liked that it was a hopeful ending, somewhat.
You definitely needed something. I mean, of course, you can end it on just complete despair. Plenty of
Yeah,
queer films have ended their movies just on like, well,
I know.
thank you, depression. I'm here once more. I like that this film, as outlandish as obviously part of it kind of gets with all of this kind of mystery, is that it is somewhat grounded in a lot of ways. It's not just this blind romantic movie, if you will, as much as maybe we would love for it to be. Sometimes that first love, that awakening moment for you, they're not necessarily, you kind of look back with rose colored glasses or you overlook some of the negatives that were there. So we're seeing this from Alex's point of view. So of course, everything that's happening here is just literal perfection because that's kind of how you look back on it, especially after something like this happens. You're going to look back on someone with the rose colored glasses as well. And they just don't work out for one way or another. You move on and you have to find a way to actually move on. And I think that ending really puts that into a nice perspective and gives the audience a way forward and gives this character a way forward. And they leave it really open-ended. I actually liked his like little dialogue at the end about this is the person I was or am or figuring out basically. And the stuff with like his dad never sees full circle. I guess I like that it's a really open-ended ending for him. He's still a young adult. He's still finding his way in the world. We're right there with him. A lot of these things haven't been figured out. They haven't been worked through or ironed out in any kind of way. He's obviously still really kind of feeling out himself and who he is and what he's about. And it felt real in that kind of really just open, ambiguous, kind of scary, but hopeful ending.
Yes, and with his dad and mom, I loved how they had the Uncle Jack, I think. She said, "Don't mention it in front of your dad," but then later he asks her, "Did you love Uncle Jack or did you like Uncle Jack?" And she says, "Yep." I just thought that showed hope. At least they will have a good relationship, or somewhat good. Because sometimes parents are like they'll be okay with other people being, in the
Yes.
LGBTQ, but if their son or daughter, they won't be as okay with that. But I think that shows hope between their relationship.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I think this film does a good job of like laying down those little seeds of not making it too unrealistically hopeful, particularly mid 80s. Not like all rosy and everyone's accepting and this and that and the third, but also not making it just hopeless. Was a lot of people's reality. I mean, just is what it is. It was a very dire situation for so many people in the 80s, but I think particularly by 2020, when this film was first released on the festival circuit, we've had a lot of those films that felt pretty hopeless. They showed the really dark, really dire nature of growing up queer in whatever time period that and we've also at that point seen other really hopeful ones like Love Simon had just come out a few years before this. That was a teen film, a lot of teen movies coming up on like Netflix and such that were a lot more hopeful and accepting. I thought this was actually a really nice kind of middle ground that felt rooted in some sort of realism, but still not just depressive. Even
Yes.
though it dealt with murder, which none of the other ones in this like subcategory have. Not murder,
Yeah.
I guess death.
Even though I loved it, Aristotle and Dante, that movie was like almost for that time period. I think it was like the 80s as well. That everyone was like just so. I mean, not everyone, but like the both his mom and dad were so accepting if he was going to be gay, and the other ones were so accepting. That I felt it was almost too unrealistic for that time period. I loved the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, no, especially Latinos still in 2020s. My community has lots of problems with being accepting for this type of thing. So I mean you're right about that one with Aristotle and Dante, but I also really enjoyed that film. But yeah, any final thoughts and like your final verdict when it comes to Summer of 85?
Yeah, it was definitely I liked it. I wouldn't, even though I've seen it twice, I wouldn't never watch it again, especially for the romantic angles. But it's not one I'd probably rush back to watch again. But I did really like it, like we've said. But the third act just took a nosedive. I think too much, a little bit too much at times for me.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it for the most part. It just fell short on a few key aspects, and I think that death mystery aspect of it was the weakest part that kind of held it back from entering that like level of great queer films that I love and will revisit, even if they make me like an emotional mess at the end, like this one, even though, has its problematic aspects to it as well. But I'm still right there for it. Sorry. It's really good. Just unfortunately, that aspect of the movie kept it from being great for me personally. So I say check it out. I do think it's worth a watch if you haven't seen Summer of 85. As I said, it is available currently on Prime Video if you have Amazon Prime or over on Tubi. So check it out before Pride Month ends. It is summer. We're out here living through a heat wave in most of the United States. So, what better movie than one about a summer romance to end off Pride Month. Well, Dan, once again, thank you so much for joining me to discuss this film. Please let everyone know where they can find you on the internet.
So I have a YouTube channel, The Upside Dan. So you can find me on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, The Upside Dan 93 on Instagram. I want people to follow me on Letterboxd as well, The Upside Dan 93. But yeah, YouTube and Instagram are definitely like my main social medias. But I do write about everything on Letterboxd. I write about every movie I see, no matter what. Summer of '85 is already on there. But yeah, no, check me out on YouTube, The Upside Down. I mostly focus on 40X to tell you like if a movie's worth it to see it in 40X or not. But I do want to, expand. But thank you, yeah, thank you, Larry, so much for having me.
Does this movie have any elements that you think would work well in 40X as our 40X expert?
No, I mean the motorcycle stuff. The boat stuff and the motorcycle stuff, but yeah, no, I don't think it'd be worth it.
Yeah, indies generally
Yeah.
not for the 40X format. Also, if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Make sure to check out all of my Pride Month reviews. There's a full playlist on the channel of pretty much all the queer cinema I've covered, including all of my Pride Month reviews. And make sure to join in on the discussion. Have you seen Summer of '85? What are your thoughts on this little French film? Let us know either in the comment section down below, or as you heard, you can hit us both up across social media. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.